This is overhooked, well left.
That is the biggest hook I've seen him hit all week. Worst tee shot of the week for him. And you think you can stay short of it. But then when you get in there, you're swinging. Everybody's got more momentum. It goes longer and you get tangled up in it.
To the right. This is going to run into the bunker.
Long bunker shot lies ahead for Bryson now.
Good contact.
And that's caught the slump, ran up there.
Right below the hole goes DeChambeau, and he's popped up for his second U.S. Open victory. Another epic up.
And a good afternoon to you. How are we doing? Coming off of Father's Day an hour earlier, but the same old King's Court that you know. Ryan in Sacktown with you. We're going to go till about 2:30 today. The schedule this week might change just a tad bit. We got a few things going on, but how was everyone's weekend? Get in touch with me. You can hit me up in the chat if you're on YouTube. You can also do that on X. You'll see the chats coming up on the screen. You can call the show as well, 916-399-3748. You can also call through Restream. Video not necessary. If you want to be on through Restream, you can do that with or without video. However, I will tell you, some of the callers I worry about the most are the ones that are not on video, especially when they show up late in the show, really late. Those are the ones that you got to have the finger on the dump button, and our dump button doesn't go 7 seconds ahead. We are flying by the seat of our pants with it. So I trust all you with the chat. We had a knucklehead in here earlier, I guess last week, so we took care of that. But lot to talk about. Over the weekend, the U.S. Open, Bryson DeChambeau brings it home in a thriller. What a shot from the bunker on 18. No matter what you want to say about that course, yeah, looks like a bunch of goats ate all the grass on it other than the native areas. It worked out. Those greens were really tricky. Rory McIlroy, what do you think about that? That was I don't want to say an epic collapse, but he was playing good golf. And then I don't know if it's the pressure, what it was, but the course bit back. I mean, he left his putt on 18, I think like 2 or 3 feet from the hole. And it was still an incredibly difficult putt, which he ended up missing. Bryson, there was a shot earlier, par 4, where Bryson drives the green. Are you freaking kidding me? On Sunday at the U.S. Open. So for the fathers out there, hope you had a great Father's Day. And we had a chill one. It was pretty good. No complaints on my end. It is a Ry-doe Monday, so we'll be hitting some of those. Man, the post office right now, they're struggling. The post office in Elk Grove, they are struggling. Joe Namath, struggling. So we'll bring you up to date if that one comes up on the wheel. They changed all of our mailboxes out, yet keys aren't ready? What? So, anyways, NBA draft, we're getting closer and closer to that. A name that I am continuing to hear climb up the board, Cody Williams of Colorado. Yes, that is the brother of Jalen Williams. He's got a 7'2" wingspan. I don't think he will be there at 13, but I've heard actually from people, again, at the Brawny Bine, we call the combine the Brawny Bine around these parts, that they think he could be the most ready guy in the draft, the most solid NBA guy. But there are some questions about his body. That's give and take, right? You see guys that have smaller bodies, smaller frames that work out just fine. And then you see others that struggle with it. So we can talk about him. Get up here in the chat. What's up, Ash? Thanks for making it here an hour early. Dennis, appreciate you. You did make it on time, Finchy. No contempt today. I love it, buddy. Thank you for being in here. Alex, what's up, man? What am I looking at? Well, I got a lot going on around here. So you got monitors over here. You got a monitor here, camera here. So I kind of pop around. I'm looking around everywhere. Here come the knuckleheads. Yeah, well, I've got something on the Ry-doe wheel about knuckleheads. One of our family members works at a retail store on my wife's side, and some of the stories he told me yesterday were horrendous. And it has to do with kids that just go into the stores and they treat them like somebody else's house, like an empty house, and they just record their TikToks, get all going, and just disrespect stuff. So that's actually on the Ry-doe board. Been saying all along that he might be a pick down the road later on who we should have went number one. Say that again. I've been saying that all along he might be the pick down the road later on who should have went number one. I got what you're saying, Dennis. You think he has the most upside. Yeah, we can talk about it in a little bit. You got some topics, bring them in. Are you going to hit me with conspiracy theories, Jay? Are we going Wilt Chamberlain conspiracy theory? Because I had that up on my computer for a little bit, but then I dropped it. So you're going to have to fill us in on those. But get up in here. Happy to have you. Also, Stanley Cup Finals. The Oilers not ready to go away. They explode offensively. I mean, explode 8 goals. Are you kidding me? Bobrovsky, he's human. I'll take that. And then also getting back to the golf conversation, this was kind of a hot topic yesterday. What is going to bring golf back? Can golf come back? So here's the thing. We keep talking about you need a dominant number one that's going to draw ratings, that's going to be a household name. Well, Scotty Scheffler is kind of the closest thing to that. DeChambeau, he's gone through these different iterations, right? He's changed physically. He seems to have changed as a person. And you expect that with professional athletes growing as their careers go along. But then, like, you talk about golf on the other side of things. How do you spice it up? How do you make it more interesting? Well, I always thought the Happy Gilmore approach could be kind of cool, but guess what? We found out that doesn't work. That's kind of what Live Golf is going for, right? They've got shorts, they've got the music blaring, you've got team play, and that's not really working out great. And I know there's a lot of controversy about how that's backed and the ownership of that tour, if you want to call it a tour, that league. So what's it going to be? I mean, I don't see any of the guys. You're not going to get is it going to be Tiger Woods' son, Charlie? Is he going to be the next one that brings us back to the television? I mean, I still enjoy watching a good major tournament. I think it's a lot of fun. I think the friction between the Live guys and the PGA Tour guys is very interesting. I think it brings another level of, I don't want to say variance, but just a little nuance to it. It brings like, oh, is something going to happen? You know, kind of like people are putting eyeballs on the WNBA right now. And, you know, the whole Angel Reese thing, she does a hard foul on Caitlin Clark. Now that's a story on ESPN.com. I mean, are these players, at least in that league, trying to force a narrative, or is it the media that's trying to force a narrative with us? But I guess I'd like to hear from you. If you're a golf fan, where do you think golf stands? Is it in a dead period? Do you think golf can come back? Do you only watch for the majors? What's it going to be? Good to know. We're not going to hit up Wilt. Love it, Jay. That works out well. We can circle back on that. NBA Finals tonight. Kristaps Porzingis, is he going to give it a go? Is it smart for him to give it a go? Does Dallas have any chance of getting another one in Boston? I'm not sure that the finals go on past tonight. I think this will probably, we talked about it on the post-game show with Grant late last week. He thinks it's going to be a close game. I do not. I think Boston's going to come out and run away with this one. I just don't see, although Dallas had some success, they're now scoring over 100 points a game per the stats in this series. But I just don't see it happening. I don't see the trail there for the Dallas Mavericks. I thought the last win for the Mavericks was more about what Boston didn't do rather than what Dallas did. And credit to Dallas, so they did bring it on the defensive end. And the NBA, we've had this conversation. What the hell is going on with the conference finals, the NBA finals? You know, the NBA is not thrilled about that, but one thing's for certain that we've talked about much here in Sacramento. It's style of play. It's what's good to watch, what's bad to watch. And these NBA finals have not been interesting. I think it's almost been, how do I put this? I think it's turned some fans off. I've talked to people that don't have a horse in the race when it comes to Dallas or Boston, but typically enjoy watching the NBA finals, enjoy the championship series, and they just said it doesn't feel like the NBA finals. And it kind of doesn't. I agree with them in that sense. I remember the finals, the big buildup, more storylines. The only storyline here is which Celtic is probably going to be the MVP. And if you ask me, it's Jaylen Brown, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't. It's just there's not a lot of intrigue. I feel like with the Dallas side, it has a lot to do with style of play. And Adam Silver, that has been his entire thing. He wants more defense. He wants more physicality. Well, you're not really getting it. And this is the time of year that you would get it turned up to 11. And so as the NBA rolls into a period where they may be without Charles Barkley. In fact, Charles Barkley saying that he is going to likely retire after this coming season. I don't know what's going to keep a lot of the casual viewers there, especially if you put a paywall with the NBA. If you're going to put games on Peacock, if you're going to do playoffs on, subscription based, and then where does that leave small market teams? Where does that leave regional networks? That's all. The whole COVID year, I talked about it many times. The reason that they ended up playing it back and running it back and doing the bubble was because those regional sports networks had minimum guarantees of games that they would get. And if those games did not get met, then the NBA and the teams did not get paid. So we will continue this conversation on. Let's get to David's comment. Hard to even watch the finals. I might have been into the playoffs overall if the Kings made it into the second round. Getting the bump early just kind of killed it for me. Waiting for next year. Aren't we all? Well, it's about to kick off. I mean, the Sasha news that we talked about last week, we're starting to get that trickle of information going. The Kings open to trading Sasha. The question I've been trying to ask around to people that I speak to around the league is, does Sasha have any value? If you're a team that's rebuilding, if you are a team that's trying to get over the hump, could you maybe fit Sasha into a system? If you need a 3-point shooting guy, and a name that I kept hearing, or a team that I kept hearing come up, which I don't think is realistic, is Utah. A lot of people thought that he could work in Utah with the style they play with Lauri Markkanen. And I know that there's been some local talk about Lauri Markkanen and the Kings. I don't see that happening. There's just no way. I mean, Utah, first off, they're off their rocker if they think they're getting anything close to what they got for Rudy Gobert, for any of their players. That was an outlier. And then you see reports coming out of Chicago that Chicago turned down first-round picks for Alex Caruso. Really interesting, huh? So we can get back to this conversation in a little bit, but first we bring in our guy Jay. He said he's got some topics today. He backs it up. Jay, how you doing, man?
What's going on, Ry-doe? How you doing?
Doing well.
Good. It's funny that you mentioned Utah, because I had a fit that I was actually going to bring up, and that would be with the Warriors.
With the Warriors.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know, being a part of the Kings fans and all that stuff, we don't really care about what the Warriors do, but it is an interesting situation over there. Klay Thompson unfollowing the Warriors in this free agency period, even though free agency technically hasn't started, it's started.
Well underway. Yes.
What do you think about that? Have you heard about Klay unfollowing the Warriors organization?
I heard something about it. I don't pay attention to a lot of that stuff. Players do it all the time now. It's posturing. It's whatever it is. It's trying to send a narrative out, stir up a fan base. Look at the Mike Brown negotiations. Well, the talks are tabled for now. Well, no, they were probably tabled for that session, right, Jay? So
yeah, for sure.
But I'll kick it to you. I mean, if that's a guy that's only been there for a couple years and he unfollows the team, whatever. But you're right.
Exactly.
It is Klay Thompson.
It is Klay Thompson drafted a Warrior. Draymond Green drafted a Warrior. Stephen Curry was drafted a Warrior. This core was built technically the right way. How they want people in the NBA to go pursue championships through the draft and long-term development and building. Klay unfollows the Warriors. And to some fans, especially Kings fans, they may not mean anything, but to your point, Ry-doe, it's Klay Thompson, their player that they drafted, unfollowing the Warriors. Which brings me to now, what do you do assuming Klay Thompson does not come back as the Warriors? What do you do? Because I feel like you owe it to Stephen Curry to pursue a championship. You owe it to him. You have to go all in his last few years.
I don't think you owe him anything. I think you owe him the option. You owe him the option, much like a Dame Lillard. If the direction that you are going does not fit his timeline, I think he's earned the right to be a part of that conversation rather than having a decision made without his input. But if you're the Warriors, why are you going to try to go all in for a championship when the West is absolutely nuts right now? Steph's on the downside of his career. We have to admit that. He's on the downside of his career. So
he's old. I wouldn't say down. I would say he's older. His numbers probably dropped slightly, but I think that he can still compete if you want to compete with him now. You can still compete with him now.
You can still compete with him, but you're not going to, especially with the new CBA, I just don't see them, especially when they tried to do this. Remember, they tried to do this a couple years ago, and they got wamboozled with Poole, the big man that they had to trade away to that didn't work out, that they drafted, Wiseman.
Yeah.
So I just think they're going to be more conservative, and I think you're going to see a similar situation where they try to build within. They've got some good pieces, Jay. Kuminga, I really like a lot. I know the Warriors are very high on him.
I'm not high on him after looking at his stats. Well, his 3-point percentage, it's not very good.
But
it's like
you don't
31 or 28.
But that's kind of okay. So I was going to talk about Cody Williams later in the show, right? Cody's 3-point percentage is not very good. He's not a great 3-point shooter, but he's amazing in the mid-range. And I think that you're going to see teams try to build more balanced teams. Jerry has said a couple times he thinks this 3-point era, the gate might be closing a little bit on it.
Yeah, it's either kind of you got it or you don't.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you better be able to do what you can do to the best, to the full potential you have at doing that. So, and I was actually thinking the same with Kyle Kuzma. I know we spoke about that, but I was thinking about the shows when we have talked about him and how Grant brings up, he adds shooting from the 3-point shot. He does, however, we've talked about it. It's definitely nowhere near as good as Keegan Murray's 3-point percentage. So whether you can shoot the 3 ball or you can't, that doesn't really matter as long as you can score. And when we talk about the Kings and trying to trade for someone like a Brandon Ingram or a Kuzma who's a better fit, it's no secret that Brandon Ingram can shoot that 3-point ball better, but Kuzma averages more points. So who cares if he shoots it better? Kuzma can score how he wants to score, whether it's shooting the 3 or not. So I'm with you on that part. And
Yeah,
Jared.
the Kings need scores. I mean,
Right.
Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox are really your only true scorers. Like, give them the
Correct.
basketball, let them go to work. Sabonis needs a little bit of help. You got to get him in the right positions. Keegan Murray's trying to get there.
He will.
But there's just not enough creators. We have too many
Yeah,
finishers. in my
exactly.
opinion.
Very, very true. And that could also be partially from how we run our offense. I'm pretty sure 90% of the time we're running a DHO through Sabonis.
You know what? We're not, though. That's what's weird. We were the year before, the playoff year. Last
Oh,
year, the DHO, and I think that's some of the struggles you saw with Kevin Herter right off the bat. Teams were guarding the DHO a little bit different, and then the DHO becomes less effective. Here's the key. Guys were guarding Sabonis the playoff year. They were up in Sabonis's grill. That's why he had 3 different options with the DHO. Now the scout on Sabonis is you lay off of them. So the DHO isn't nearly as effective, but to make the DHO effective, let's take a step beyond that. You got to have the pick and roll going too. You have to have multiple actions. And the Kings either had the beautiful ball movement or they had 4 around the arc and 1 down low, and they just threw it around and then 8 seconds on the shot clock. Oh, we need to get something up. And that was like the hard to watch, grit your teeth basketball that we saw at least half of this season, Jay.
yeah. Yeah, I think that teams are going to catch on to that, especially making the playoffs after 20 years. They're going to be studying what you guys have done to get to this point. And like you said, they started to guard it differently. But yeah, at this point, we do, especially with the free agency, Malik Monk going on, whether he comes back or not, we need someone who can create their own shot. We need someone who can get buckets. That's what we should.
They can get buckets. Yep.
Just get a bucket. Just give them the ball.
Because, I mean, it's classic NBA. You're going to try to take away the first option. You're going to try to take away the second option. And then you need that third guy that can step in that frees up the other main options. And that's what Boston does so well. You and I have had this conversation a lot. They don't burn one of their guys out like the Kings burn out their 2 guys, Fox and Sabonis.
Right.
It's almost like there's a little bit of a panic that sets in. And now I'm saying it without Monk on the floor. Let's assume Monk's not in Sacramento. But I guess I'll ask you this. I was doing a lot of thinking about last season. And the best case scenario for the Kings is what you just said a few minutes ago, that it was an offensive system thing. And last year was an aberration, and they pull the reins back. And this team really isn't as far off as it seems like they are, because you look at the roster right now and it's like, when you have too much to do and you don't even know where to start, that's what I'm feeling right now.
I think and I get you. I think where we need to start. I think it's just you don't know exactly like the position, because we can use some help at a center or backup center. Yeah, we can use help on the wings. Yeah, we could use someone that can play the shooting guard to replace Monk. And what if we trade Herter? Then we're down another shooting guard. I think we both know they just need to do something different. Would you agree with that?
Yes, there's no doubt about it. Where they made their mistake, they were totally fine. And this was when we were
By the
having
way,
these.
I love your Kings hat. I just noticed.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. I had to bust it out because I'm wearing the 97 Air Maxes right now.
Oh, that's
the
nice.
Yellow ones that are like all bright, and it kind of matches this color.
Nice.
But like the whole thing last season, when we were sitting here having these talks about the Kings, are they going to go out, get somebody else, or what are they going to do? How are they going to get better? When they re-signed Harrison, the first question or the first thing that came up was, well, when could we possibly trade him? Right? Like, what if it's not working out? And the Kings, I thought my expectation was if it's not rolling by the All-Star break, you got to make some moves because they built in that flexibility to be able to turn if they needed to.
Yeah.
But for a
Mhm.
second trade deadline, they do nothing. While everybody around, I shouldn't say everybody, but while one team that's kind of in the same class, you would agree with me that the Mavericks were in that same group as the
Yeah,
Kings
we
going.
were between like the eighth seed and kind of fifth. There was like the 2 or 3
Yes.
teams that were around there, and we were definitely one of those teams battling out with the Mavericks for
Yeah, and
seeding.
the Kings had rolled Dallas twice. Remember, they had the convincing victory, the first one in Dallas. I know that Dallas had a brutal back-to-back. I think they were in Milwaukee the night before, but then the
Yeah.
Kings go into Dallas again and they beat them, right? And you're thinking,
Mhm.
okay, we should be able to get one of two from Dallas, but Dallas goes at the trade deadline and they get Gafford, right? They get
Mhm.
Washington, and I know it cost them some things, first round pick, but it didn't cost them a ton. And look at the difference that made. It got them over the hump into the NBA finals. And those guys just doing their roles enabled Kyrie to take a little bit less of a role and able to step up off of Luka when Luka needed him. And now they're in the NBA finals. And I know they're not doing great, but the Lakers did the same thing the year before.
Mhm.
So the running it back, fine, but not making the moves at the last trade deadline or trying to make a move,
Mhm.
that's what to me has set this entire thing back. And then, Monk, you've got it. Jerry said the organization has an idea of which way he's leaning, what the market might be for him, obviously without tampering. But what do you do if Malik Monk leaves? What
And
do
that's what
you do?
I was reading Zach's comment right here. Hopefully retain Monk, or we need 2 shot creators. And yeah, I pretty much agree because we need another shot creator already if we
Yes,
retain Monk. And then if he
bingo.
leaves, then we need that 2 more. Very
Well,
simple.
here's the name that we're not talking about. And I know you got him for one more year, and then he's a restricted free agent at the end of this season. Davion Mitchell. He showed a ton of potential down the stretch as he got increased playing time, and he was actually creating. I added him on as a half. I said the Kings have 2.5 creators without Monk being able to play. Do we think Davion's going to be able to improve off of what he did at the end of the season last year?
I don't know because I don't know if he will be on the roster because when you add Davion into these trade packages, it sounds a lot better if you're getting someone like Barnes and then Davion who's younger rather
Yeah.
than a Barnes and Sasha Vezenkov or someone like that. So I don't know if he is on the Kings, do I think he can take a step forward? Me personally, I like Davion Mitchell. I like his energy and his prowess that he brings on the floor. I think that if he did not make an NCAA championship run with Baylor, he might not even be in the NBA. I've noticed a lot when watching him play. I know you're cringing, Rhino. I know.
I'm thinking. Go ahead. Make your point. I will listen.
I don't mean that to down any players or anything like that. But I've also noticed he's played for 3 years in the NBA, 4 years.
3.
Um, he's turnover prone, and that probably has to do with him being in and out of the rotation, and that's a whole nother psychological thing we can get into. But he's like 6'1", 6 feet tall, probably. He is very fast. He does play with energy and intensity. He almost treats it as if instead of an NBA game, it's an NCAA game where you play with passion, which is fine. But I really see I don't know if he really was NBA ready, and I think that might have been a draft mistake on the Kings' behalf. So as far as taking that step, I don't know. I think he needs to be playing in the summer league and taking G League time. I think he should be more of
Oh,
a
I
two-way player.
disagree. I think he's past that. I don't think I don't think he needs G League or Summer League time. He's not that bad. He just hasn't gotten an extended run. I mean, he got
Yeah,
an
that's very
extended
true
run
too.
at the end of the season last year, and he looked good. It's just, and that's another thing we go back to, as I said, like just 5 minutes ago, was last year an aberration because Mike Brown's rotation was all over the damn map last
Yeah,
year.
very, very true. Very true.
Even when he had a full deck to play with at times, it was all over the place. And
Mhm.
there was just not, it never, when you get to that comfortable spot where you just feel comfortable, you feel like you're in your zone, it never felt like the Kings got there. And the closest it felt they got there was when Monk wasn't even playing with them at the end of the year. And then you look at, let's talk Kuzma, and we're talking Davion.
Mhm.
Couple of the pieces that teams want or have wanted, like we saw the proposed trade. I think Matt George put out a podcast where he talked to the Lock On Wizards guy, and it was Trey Lyles, Davion Mitchell, first round pick, and there might have been one more piece, and it was only for Kyle Kuzma. How are you going to fill roster holes
All right. Trey
if you
Lyles.
do that?
Trey Lyles, Davion Mitchell, the 13th pick for Kyle Kuzma. If I'm Monty McNair, I'm sending that over to the Wizards.
But it doesn't free up I think Harrison was in. Let me pull this up really quick because I want to be accurate with that. I want to say, let's see. I know.
I think I might have seen the same one. I don't know if it was. And honestly, for Kuzma, sounds crazy. I would be willing to give 2 firsts. So this and then a future first. Now you probably like the reason being is because of his contract, and his contract regresses instead of
Correct.
inflates.
Correct.
And it's a pretty good deal financially because if Kuzma doesn't push us necessarily over the hump, but he gets us a little bit closer, then in the future we will have financial flexibility with the way his contract is structured.
Well, you'll have, but what do you do in the immediate is, I guess, the question, because
Okay.
you have a ton of roster holes to fill. There was another player included in it. I'm looking at it right now. I don't know that if I'm giving up 2 firsts for Kyle Kuzma, I think you're overpaying at that point. You might look at maybe a pick exchange in the second round, because I think there could be some value in the second
That
round.
was one of the ideas, and then I told Grant was if we sent, let's say, Trey Lyles, Davion, the 13th pick for Kyle Kuzma, and then their second round pick this year. So
Mhm.
pretty much a pick swap, but they get to go back into the lottery just so we can have roster depth and we can get a cheap roster filler in the second round, and we'll have 2 second round picks. I would love that deal. I think that's fair on both sides. You get an extra lottery pick and you get Trey Lyles, who's a good player, solid player, and then you have the upside of Davion Mitchell along with that.
Yeah.
And they're both on team-friendly contracts.
So here's the trade: Lyles, Mitchell, Chris Duarte, and the first round pick straight up for Kyle Kuzma. So
Send it.
you're only dishing out salary wise. That's going to equal out Kuzma's contract. So now you have 2 more roster, basically 3 roster spots to fill with the mid-level exception.
Yeah, send it. Because number one, Trey Lyles didn't get much tick. Granted, he was injured. Davion Mitchell didn't get much tick. Granted, he wasn't injured, and Chris Duarte, every time he was on the court, I was praying. So not because he's a bad player, but because he didn't have enough time to really gel with our team. Remember, he came after the year we made it to playoffs.
Yep.
Um,
Injuries
and
off and
that's
on, story of
yeah,
his career.
and that's just the facts. And whether we have Chris Duarte on this squad or not doesn't make or break us. And I
No.
do get what you're saying. We have roster holes, but think about this: we're trading 3 bench players for a starter, and we still would have HB and Kevin Huerter in that trade. Kevin Huerter can move down to the bench. HB can move down to the bench. So we have 2 veterans that have experience. our bench unit is now going to be better because we aren't going to have Trey and Davion to get into the rotation because these guys were starters before. So
But
they know what to do when it's time to get in there. You move Keegan Murray up to that 3 spot. You put Kyle Kuzma at the 4. We have scoring and defense now. I think Kuzma actually had like 25 more blocks than Sabonis did this year. So you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone by adding him into that lineup.
I don't disagree that 1 through 7, you're much better.
1 through 7, okay.
You're absolutely better, but like the nuances. So for me, the deal breaker there, I'm fine with Davion. I am fine with Duarte, but Lyles to me is the deal breaker there.
And that's exactly how I felt too early on in this season. I said if there was people that were untouchables, it would be obviously Monk, Fox, Sabonis, Keegan, and Trey Lyles.
Yes.
But if that's what gets the deal done to get a starting caliber player who's ready to go now, who's already won a championship, who's had experience being on a role team and being the leader of a team, who's clearly better than all 3 of those players when you compare them in all stats. We got to do something, especially if we're losing Monk.
You do, but you have a gaping hole on the front line and in the backcourt with your point guards. You don't necessarily have a backup point guard. The 2-way guys are not under contract right now. Slauson not under contract. Jordan Ford not under contract.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing. That's what I'm saying, because everybody's assuming if you keep this first round pick, you're going to have a guy that's ready to play, which probably is not the case. And I know Dennis is big on Edey. I keep seeing Edey come up. Edey's not ready. Edey would be a bad idea with this iteration of Domantas Sabonis. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Edey would not spread the floor. The spacing would be a mess. Richard, really quick to answer your question. The Kings do have the money to re-sign Monk, but there is a maximum that he can be paid. So it's just below 19 million. So
I'm going to agree with Zach. Obviously, if Monk stays, I wouldn't be worried about the backup point guard position, especially with Keon Ellis. Maybe we can even have Keegan Murray run the second unit if needed, just so he can become a better shot creator and run it through him. But I agree with Zach. The issue is if we don't keep Monk, I'm with you on that, Rhino. What are we going to do? Because we really just have Keon Ellis at that point.
Yes, exactly. And again, then you have the gaping holes. You absolutely have to knock your second round pick out of the park. Hopefully,
yeah, we do.
If they can step up, they'd probably be 2-way guy would be my guess. You're not bringing up, and I covered Stockton really closely this last year. There's nobody from Stockton that's a vet that's going to be coming up like Scal or any of them. So,
right.
Like the sexy name for Sacramento, Isaiah Hartenstein. Would love to have Isaiah come to Sacramento, but the Thunder, here's a scary thought. The Thunder really want him, and there's mutual interest allegedly there. New York wants to keep him as well. I just... Man, this is a lot of, the halftime show that they sometimes have at G1C where it's the lady on the tricycle or the single wheel and she's balancing like 39 different plates and spinning them around. Like these different scenarios that were thrown out, it feels like those. And again, you are better 1 through 7 if you get Kuzma, but you just don't have depth. And
yeah, well, to be fair, we do. Okay. And then if Malik did leave, right?
This is predicated on if you have no Malik Monk and
we still have the MLE.
You still have the MLE.
So we can go get a backup guard, or we can fill that. I forgot about that. So we still can figure something out.
Well, you could figure something out, but this is a Western Conference that's getting rapidly better without any of the moves that they're gonna make this off season.
I'm doing it.
I feel you.
Think about this too. Not only can we, let's say we did that trade, Davion first round and Duarte for Kuzma. Well, we still got Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter. maybe we can exchange a player, something like that, and work something out. Plus, we have the MLE. Or we can
Yeah.
trade maybe those players for some type of early second round pick or something like that to swap out our need, since we do have a Kuzma, Keegan, and then one of those guys at the 3, because Harder's played the 3 before and Harrison Barnes has too.
The Keegan thing is interesting because I think Keegan took a bigger jump in between year 1 and 2 than De'Aaron took in between year 1 and 2.
Well,
And
I'm not
actually,
touching Keegan then.
no,
And
yeah,
I've heard, I forgot who, I think it was one of these NBA scouts saying that Keegan Murray reminds him of Kawhi Leonard in year 2.
well, yeah, that's somebody they were talking about his progression. They were saying that it was right around the California Classic last year. Look,
Where he was
Keegan's
cooking.
yes,
How
Keegan
many
was, but
points
you're not.
he dropped like 40 something?
He better drop 40 something. You're playing against guys that are playing in their first NBA summer league games. That's before the
He was
Vegas.
cooking. Jeff
That's before
Keegan.
Vegas gets going. Okay, so look at this. I'm looking at the free agents right now for this summer. LeBron, he ain't coming here. Paul George, Klay Thompson, and that's another thing too. The Klay Thompson shoe, who
Oh
we
Lord.
started off talking about, I think he is tied to Malik Monk. And Jerry agrees with me because the roles that teams are going to be looking for each of those guys to play
Yeah.
outside of like a Detroit who's saying, Malik, come start with us, outside of a situation like that, they're both going to be looking to be high level 6 men. High level. So if
Yeah,
Klay Thompson
very
goes
true.
out there and demands
That's a great point.
20 million, 22 million a year by, say, Orlando really likes him. Really likes him. We know that.
Mhm.
What's that do for Malik's value? Because to me, Malik's
Yeah,
value
see,
is
there you
at
go.
least Clay's. At least.
That's a tough one. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I don't know if I have to think about that for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not
It-
disagreeing with you, but I've also thought what you've said, these teams that are pursuing Clay are also probably going to be pursuing Monk, and who do they value more in regards to who are they going to throw more money to?
exactly.
I do think, let's say the Spurs with Cap, I think they would
I
throw
agree.
Klay Thompson more money than they would Malik, just because I have a feeling Greg Popovich ain't really for Malik Monk's play style. Plus you have the 4th and 8th round pick, so you're going to get some guards there.
What makes you think he wouldn't be for his play style outside of playing above the rim? I mean, there are similarities between
Monk is
Malik and
when I see Monk, I think of old school and one.
what, like hot sauce?
Yeah, he's a little
Come on,
fancy out
man.
there, but hey,
Come on.
as long as he's getting buckets,
The
whatever. But
professor. The
yeah,
professor.
I think Greg Popovich's hard system basketball. I don't think Malik would want to go to somewhere like the Detroit Pistons.
I don't think he would either,
So it
unless the
doesn't really
money's there.
matter what you offer him. I don't think he's going to take it. And then I think Orlando is really and the Sixers, but I don't think the Sixers are going to be pursuing Monk as their first option. I feel like they're going to go after some bigger fish out there, and they could even trade and absorb salary as well for a bigger fish. Plus, they have Tyrese Maxey that they're going to wait to sign until after they get their big fish and the role players, because they're allowed to exceed his
Correct.
value because they have his rights. So
Correct.
they're not going to sign him first. He's not going to be the first free agent signed. That wouldn't make any sense if you're trying to win a championship. And then Orlando, I do think, is one of those guys or one of those teams that would be interested in Monk's services. But then again, you have those players like Klay Thompson, and what will he be valued to that team? So I've thought about the same exact thing that most of those teams that are looking at Malik Monk are also looking at a Klay Thompson or some other scorer who's on that free agent list, someone who can shoot the ball well. But that's tough to really sit and think about his options and what he's going to do, because we could sit here and be skeptical all day long about, oh, he's going to go here or go there. But I will say, looking at these teams that realistically can pursue him, I think there's only been 1 or 2 that may have been like that would make sense. And then if not, he would stay with the Kings. I don't think it's as open as many people would. I think he's actually more open to staying with the Kings rather than going somewhere else, unless it's a better or equal situation where Orlando would be one of those teams.
Well, it's a situation too where Malik has to decide if he's going to bet on himself. I mean, along with the money comes the responsibility.
Mhm.
And being here in Sacramento, I don't want to say it's a comfortable position, but he's look, his role is perfect, at least for what Mike Brown wants to do and what the front office wants to do. Now, does Malik want to start? That's a whole nother can of worms that we could open up. But Malik knows what would be expected of him in Sacramento. He knows the pressures. He knows what comes along with that. You take a 23, $24 million deal on the open market, and you're going to be one of, 3 guys that's going to be looked at to be pushing that team forward with whoever you're with. That's a different responsibility. And Malik Monk's a guy that just, 2 years ago was almost out of the NBA with the Lakers, and then Charlotte. Charlotte, if we're going to go over the Malik Monk suitors, Charlotte, forget about it. I don't see him going back.
I don't see him going to Charlotte either.
Detroit, I don't see it.
Unless you're offering him like $35 million a year.
Correct, which Monty Williams, they threw the bag at him and he took it to coach Detroit. To me, the two suitors are Orlando and San Antonio. San Antonio have 2 picks in the top 8 in this draft. They've got money to play with. And I know you don't think it's a great fit, but Greg Popovich loves pick and roll. Think about all the years of Tony Parker. And
yeah, but Tony Parker wasn't going, it wasn't hot. I mean, yeah, he runs the pick and roll, but it's just, Tony Parker and Monk have a complete different way they approach the game.
Well, yeah, Tony Parker was not nearly as explosive as
I'm not even talking about the explosiveness. I look at Monk, I look at him first as like I said, a hooper. Like, you're at 24-hour fitness and then you see this guy say, I got next. And he's over here making everybody look stupid on the court.
Yeah.
And then his explosiveness comes second. And that's not to down his explosiveness, but looking at the way he played and how fluid he moves with the ball, I was honestly surprised to see him bounce out the gym like that on these dunks and these block shots that he had. He's a great player, but let's not speak on that too much. Let's say he's all right, so we can keep him around. We don't want
to. So really quick, Zach, yeah, that's the bag we're talking about. If Detroit throws a bag at Malik, that would, because it's Detroit. The pressure is.
It's Detroit, though. I would be afraid to play there.
Why?
But just Detroit, the city. I wouldn't. It's not the safest city. I don't want to sit here and sway anybody or anything like that. It's just my personal preference. I'm good. I wouldn't even want to live in Detroit.
Fair enough. Richard says, where's Terrence Davis? Please no. I am not a Terrence Davis guy, but I get it. The Kings need it. Let's see. All right, dude, make your quick argument for this. I've got to hear at least like.
So looking at,
got to give me a little something.
Looking at some of the facts, I think it was like 29 out of 31 free throws that game that he made.
Okay.
Shooting the ball underhand from the free throw line.
Okay.
Like when you play basketball with your grandparents or somebody and they shoot it underhand like that?
Yes. There's been other players that do that.
That's crazy to me. I found that out. But there's just no footage on it. I have yet to, I got to watch some more videos on it before I come with conclusive I lost the word, but before I come to any decision.
Clear and concise.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's no footage on it.
I mean,
and clearly cameras were there because he has a picture after the game.
Does it matter one way or the other, though? I mean, there's so many of these urban legends out there. I mean, there's lots of conspiracy theories about stuff that didn't happen. Kobe scored it was 82 or 83?
But there's footage of that game.
Well, yeah, but in that different NBA, I think the score was
scored like 70 this past season, 70 something.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah. So I don't know. We probably will at some point see a team or somebody get to 100 points. I shouldn't say a team, an individual. Well, if they keep shooting the 3 ball the way they do, inevitably it could happen. You've seen players put up more than 30 in quarters. Klay Thompson, 37 in a quarter.
Yeah.
So
Well,
here's one notable thing for I let you go. Dirk brought this up. The Indiana situation, what they're going to be doing with their guards. There's not enough money to pay everybody there. There's one guy that I really like. That's TJ McConnell. I hope he is the odd man out. He's only making $9.3 million this coming season. It's the last year of his contract.
sorry, my dogs are.
No worries, dude. The King's Court is dog friendly. We've got Con Dog, we've got CT Dog, we have Corn Dog, we have K Dog, we have Ash Dog, we have my dog Gordo. Now we've got your dogs. We have
Yeah,
7 dogs in the King's Court. But what's Indiana gonna do with their guard situation? Could the Kings maybe poach something from there? I would like to see that.
I think the main priority for Indiana is you have to keep Pascal Siakam happy. You got to keep him. You traded for him, knowing his contract is ending. You have to keep Pascal Siakam. I don't know if TJ McConnell has bird rights on his contract, but
nope, he's a free agent, 25-26, free and clear.
Well, there you go. We could use an MLE on him if Monk leaves.
Well, he's still got a year. You would have to trade for him.
Oh, he has a year left. Oh, 20.
He's got a
Okay,
year
sorry.
left, yeah.
I thought it was, well, they're going to keep him, but the main I think Obi Toppin is a free agent this year.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
And I think, is it Neesmith? He might be one as well this year.
Well, there might not be a role for one of those guys. Neesmith is signed through 26-27, I believe. Yes, he is, and he's 11 million across the board through 26-27.
Okay.
So Mathurin, he's kind of Mathurin. He's in the same boat as Davion Mitchell. He's going to be offer sheets come 26-27. Or no,
so
he
as
has
far
player
as
option.
This offseason, it's Obi Toppin and Siakam.
Obi Toppin, Daniel Tice, actually. Not a bad piece. He was only making $6 million this year. Could you do something with him? Obi, where are you at? I'm looking at their payroll now.
Obi was making like 18, 19, I think, but he's going to demand more.
Yeah, Corey Joseph, free agent. We knew about that. That he probably won't be coming back. Obi has a player option at $9.1 million.
Oh, well, he's going to decline that. Because I know he's worth more than $9 million for sure.
Let's make sure that's player option. No, he has a qualifying offer. So, yeah.
So if someone offers him more, let's say they offer, I could have sworn it was okay, maybe it was $9 million, but his value, because on Fanspo it kind of gives you a value. I don't know if you're on
his
there.
His value is more than that.
Yeah. If someone offers him $19 million, he goes back to the Pacers, and then they're allowed to sign him for $19 million. In Indiana, is that how that works?
So when an offer sheet, so the player can talk with other teams, but then let's say it's a Kings situation, the Kings with Davion would have the right to match any offer that the team or the other team would match or beat. So
yeah, so okay. And then Siakam is an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah, but all indications are he's coming back. Same thing if we want to talk about the Toronto Bros that went away. OG seems not interested in going anywhere else but the Knicks, so he's likely going to be back there as well.
Is there bird rights with Siakam?
I don't know that. I would have to check. I think no, because it's not the team that drafted. Well, no.
Because I think sometimes the bird rights can go with their traded contract, if I'm not mistaken.
No, there's no rights. He's free and clear, free agent this year.
So that means, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Pacers only have like $35 million in cap space.
Their projected payroll as of right now is 148. So
then they have less than 35, unless they go into that before
they'll have their MLE still.
Okay.
And then now, so I'm not a front office guy. There's certain things that work against the cap and don't work against the cap depending on whether you drafted the player, etc. So I don't know exactly what they have to play with. But we know what the Kings have to play with, which is basically the MLE 12.1.
Right. Yeah, Siakam is going to be your first priority for sure.
Yeah,
That
he's sticking
and I
around.
don't. I think he's making what 45 million this past season. He's not
37.8.
37 this past.
Mhm.
Okay, so he's worth that because I on somewhere else I could have sworn it said $45 million. I said he's not going to get offered that. No way, he's not.
Yeah.
I think
But
at this point in his career, he's a $35 million player, and so 37 isn't far from it.
yeah, I guess here's where I'm at. I'm going to take this a step further if you got a second, because I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
saying this for a minute. I got the Kings payroll pulled up right now. You've got Demonis Sabonis, who's going to be making 40 million, 40.5 this year. The
Hmm.
year after, he's making 43.6. The year after that, 46.7. And then 27-28, he's making 49.9 million. Okay.
Okay.
De'Aaron Fox, 34.8 this year. Next year, 37, basically 0.1. I'm going to round up. And then he is a free agent.
Hmm.
So if you are looking at the mess that I think the Kings possibly could be in, depending on the Malik Monk stuff, is Sacramento with a decision that big, and it's not just De'Aaron, Keegan Murray, he's going to be coming up as well.
Hmm.
When do the Kings need to start thinking about, is Fox in our long-term plans or not? Because if you're ever going to get max value for De'Aaron Fox, you better start thinking about it now.
Yeah. That's a good point. I do think this season will the end of this season because I think if he makes one of the All NBA teams, whether that's first, second, or third, he'll be eligible for a what is it?
Super max.
Supermax because it was 2 out of 3 seasons in a row that he had made it. That's why
He will not be all NBA.
hey, we don't I mean,
Positionless, no, he's not going to be all NBA.
well, that's what I'm saying. We'll see at the end of this because even though if he's not, then we're going to see if we're going to offer him a contract extension to be here with Sabonis for the next 2 years, the same one that we offered him this season. And if he does make it, then we'll see if we do offer him that supermax extension or not. So,
hey, I just say this: tell me a time the Kings have given a massive extension to a player off of their rookie deal and then brought him back, because you're basically making that person a career king at that point. It seems like the Kings usually get off the pot. Usually at this point, DeMarcus Cousins, he was going to be coming up for his big deal, right? And
okay.
so I just wonder, like, the Kings, look, Malik Monk, they've already made the mistake. If he walks, he walked for nothing. Were the Kings shopping him at the trade deadline? Who knows? But you already had Bogey walk for nothing. I just know with De'Aaron Fox, this team is not in a position to where they can go into a last year of his contract and not know if he's coming back or not, because that's when the value tremendously
Yeah.
drops on a player when they become a rental.
Well, that yes and no, because there's always ways to get around it. And I totally get your concern as obviously you don't want him to walk for anything or walk for nothing, excuse me. But at the same time, it's like he's making what was it, 37 or
He's
something like
making
that?
34.8 and then 37.1.
And that's $37 million off your books. Plus, if Monk leaves, then we get a plus MLE. So we're looking at a $40 million player.
But then you don't have De'Aaron Fox, my man.
Well, we could get some good. We could get a good player for 40 million. Trust me, we'll probably get one
Dude.
potentially better. Maybe not because we're Sacramento, but we can get a good player for $40 million.
You're not getting a free agent. It'd have to be a
Then
trade.
then we can trade for sure and absorb, send less and absorb more type of thing because we have that cap. But then at that point, you're right. Why would we just let him walk to if we're going to trade for it anyway?
Yeah.
Um,
It's an interesting conversation because this
does
Kings
Fox want to
team,
be a career king?
well, that's the thing. You don't know. But here's what I do know. De'Aaron Fox is going to want to make more than Demonis Sabonis.
Yeah, then at the end of the day, too, it's not just about winning. It's about this is a business, and Sacramento loves Fox, and Fox sells tickets, and he sells jerseys, and he
That's a good
sells
point.
this and that and
He
the third.
does.
So Even
He
if we
does.
don't win, Vivek is still making money off of Fox, so why not keep him around?
No,
It's,
it's just I don't think like Kings fans realize, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. There
no.
are some big decisions,
Oh yeah, there
not
is.
just on the horizon. Like we are looking over the horizon right now
Mhm.
at what could be absolutely nothing. We could be making a big deal out of nothing. This Kings team could turn it on next year and play just like they did
No,
the
it's
playoff
not
year.
just about this year. You're coming from the perspective of what we're gonna do financially, and in the next 2 years, pretty much.
Yep.
And I get, especially with you brought up Keegan, which was a great point. I'm glad we drafted him because we can offer him more than any other team can offer him, even if we go into the luxury tax. But that's the thing.
Vivek ain't doing it. He
Yeah,
ain't
at
doing
at
it.
what point do you go into the luxury tax for a team that's not
You don't.
that got kicked out the plan?
You don't because and that's what so like the whole
But wait a minute, wait.
all
Let
right,
me
go
add
ahead.
this. 3-point shot goes up, it goes in. You hear Keegan's starting to sell tickets and creating hype around Sacramento too. So at what point is it a balance of, okay, this guy he fills out the stadium, Fox fills out the stadium. These guys are making money for us. So what point is it? It's a balancing act. It's like the crowd loves him here, and it's just enough hope that we can make playoffs with these guys, or it's like, do we go into luxury tax and not make it? And you know what I mean?
Here's what I know. The Kings are still recovering from the lost money during the COVID times. That was a hard hit to everybody in the league, but especially a small market team losing that many games. That is very hard to bounce back from.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Concessions, everything else, parking, think about all those things.
yeah. Parking, concessions.
And then the Kings, you can't use the building for other events either because you can't have big gatherings. So like there was a lot of money lost during that time. And I just with the CBA that's going into effect, the Kings, the penalties, like the CBA is made to help the small market teams be more competitive. That's why it was
Right.
agreed upon. So the buyout guys can't go and form a super team for relatively cheap. You can't use your MLE, you lose draft picks, et cetera, et cetera. The Kings just aren't going to do it. They can't do it. They're financially, I don't think they're in a position to. And that's why I made a big deal about developing players, what they've been doing in Stockton. The collaboration between the Stockton Kings and the Sacramento Kings was beautiful last year. And that is the future of the NBA, at least during this CBA. It's 100% going to be, can you draft well and develop your players?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I totally get, like, teams under the luxury tax are more incentivized, and or the whole super team thing. You get penalized for that. Uh, I got $5 on it, Rhino. You want to pitch in? We can buy the Kings or something, like we can just
Yeah,
do
let's
it
do it,
ourselves.
man.
Yeah,
We'll give Vivek a call. We'll put a letter of intent together,
yeah. I got like
and
$5 on it.
love it. I love it, brother. Hey, join me tonight. We're gonna be doing NBA
Yeah,
Finals
okay,
post
for
game 8
sure.
o'clock tonight. I appreciate you, Jay.
All right.
All right, brother. That is Jay, always bringing it, knowing his stuff. Colt 45. Let's see. It would be a bad look if we traded Fox right now. If we traded him, we would also go straight to rebuilding because we're not going to trade for a star because the star won't want to be here after this. Really, really depends on the situation. But yes, on the whole, that is typically true. Also, with the city borrowing from future parking revenue and state workers working from home since COVID, there is a whole box of worms with all of that, Peter. You bring up a good point. Let me get my graphics shifted around here. Just about what's going on with that situation. I mean, the Sawyer Hotel, there was, and the A's are going to greatly help that. That's going to be huge for Sacramento. Don't know how that helps the Kings. I'm sure there'll be some collaboration between the two teams. But again, with the uncertainty of what's going to happen with the regional sports networks, that is the biggest thing to keep your eye on here in Sacramento, because it's very likely that in the coming years, you're not going to have every Sacramento Kings game on an NBC Sports California or whatever, a Comcast California, whatever they used to be when I was a kid and had a black box sports channel. You're not going to have it anymore. So how do the Kings negotiate that? I know Adam Silver is right smack in the middle of those negotiations, selling the A package, the B package. We'll see where it ends up. Hey, really quick, did anybody make it out to Bennett's this weekend for brunch or for dinner for Dad? I wish we did, but we didn't. I did check in, though, with the West Side Grill, and a huge thanks to Bennett's West Side Grill out in Rockland for sponsoring the Kings Court today. Wonderful weekend. If you don't know Bennett's, you should get to bennettsrestaurants.com. You can check out their other locations. Also, their specials. A lot of you know the trademark signature dishes, but what you don't know is the great deals that they have nearly all the time. Monday nights, for instance, you can get a bottle of wine, 2 entrees, $65. If you are a brunch person on the weekends, 2 entrees, bottle of champagne, $44. Shoot, maybe we should ask Brian if they could throw the Uber in as well. That would really seal the deal. But no, get over to bennettsrestaurants.com. They are amazing at everything they do. Great ambiance, great service, and portion sizes are incredible. They've got a little bit of everything for everybody in your family, and it will not break the bank. So again, hit bennettsrestaurants.com. You can make reservations, buy gift cards, see the menus, and much more. Huge thanks to Brian and the team at Bennett's for sponsoring the Kings Court today. We'll be back tonight at it'll be right after the end of the NBA Finals, Game 5. Will we be talking about a Game 6, or are we going to be talking about Boston winning the championship and finally putting a cherry on top of this? Interesting. How would you summarize the NBA season in one word this season? Interesting? I think interesting would be in the mix. Today is also, if you are new to the Kings Court, on Mondays, we do Ry-does. And what those are things that I saw, whether it was this weekend or things that I saw recently that just made me go, doe. So we've got the wheel back today. We're going to spin it and see what comes up. Here we go. All right, what's it gonna be? Fake high score guy. I have been waiting to talk about fake high score guy. So if you were anything like me and you used to go to the arcades, and I guess we can throw Chuck E. Cheese in there, although I'm not real big on that rat these days, especially when they tried to rebrand their pizza as Pasquale's during the pandemic. That was interesting. But when you used to go to the arcades as a kid, like, it was the coolest damn thing if you could get the high score on like the NBA shootout game, or there's NBA Jam. There's all these different things that we used to do, right? Well, we have a place that you've heard me say a few times that my son very much enjoys in Folsom. And so we go out there, we play the games honestly, we have a good time. And, I like to shoot the ball every now and again. And so while my son's at Plinko, and I'll do Plinko with him, I'll go over, I'll do the little shootout thing where you get 30 or 45 seconds. And I'm looking at the high score on this thing, and it's 65. And it's 65 on all 5 of the machines. And I'm like, you know what? That's obtainable. I think I could pull that off. And so I probably spent maybe 3 or 4 games. I probably played it 3 or 4 times. I got up to the 50s. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to happen. It's been a while since I've played basketball. I had both my hips replaced last year. My shot's a little bit different, but it was still feeling good. My arms were feeling a little jello-y, and I felt really good about my 53, right? But then I realized these high scores are a bunch of malarkey, and it's because of the drunken idiots. And yes, I am going to say drunken idiots who they're has-beens. That's what they are. They're kids that never grew out of the arcade in the high school stage, in the high school scene. Hell, you might as well wear your Letterman jackets from 1989 to this same establishment while you play your games, that have to cheat to get high scores. Yes, I saw two grown men playing the game, the basketball game that I was playing honestly at the same time. That's right. Two men, one game. You got two guys shooting on one hoop. So inevitably what happens? The high score ends up being like 110. Okay, well, first off, it's not an honest high score. It's a cheating high score. And second off, you're an adult. Why are you trying to get the high score? I mean, I guess I did. But anyways, why are you doing that? And then to top things off, you're taking pictures with the machine like you did it honestly, posting it to your 39 followers. Look, bro, I just made 110 points in 35 seconds. No, you didn't. Why didn't you post the video of you and your buddy frantically grabbing balls from the other machine, trying to get up as many shots as you could? It pissed me off. If you're going to play as an adult, play honestly. Let the kids learn how to cheat once in a while. Don't do that as an adult. It only makes it worse because there's alcohol involved in it. It drove me freaking nuts. Poop? What? What's up, C-Dog? How you doing today? Pizza Barn. Yeah, Pizza Barn had some good games. Not going to lie about that. Pizza Barn was solid. It is no longer there, though. C-Dog, we talked a lot of Kings. We were Kings heavy, talking about how they fill out the roster, what trades would look like, and future options. We even did a little future planning. Yeah. Oh, yes. Pooping. Yep. Pooping. Yeah. Poop was the NBA season. There you go. I don't disagree with that. That's a sound drop, grabbing balls. Oh, why do you got to take it there? You know what I mean? All of the basketball games are lined up next to each other. And literally, it was two bros that thought they were the coolest guys ever, cheating to break the high score. Do it honestly. Just do it honestly. That's all I'm going to say. Hey, we're going to be back tonight at 8 o'clock, or if it's just a little bit later, the conclusion of NBA Finals Game 5 between the Celtics and the Mavericks. Who you got? I think the finals end tonight. Boston wins a championship. The champagne was not cold enough in Dallas. They wanted to do it at home. We will break that all down. We're looking forward to it at 8 o'clock. Make sure you join us back here on If You Don't Like That. If you are not subscribed, make sure that you give us a thumbs up. We would really appreciate it. We did start a little bit early today. We're going to be on a modified schedule this week. I'm hoping to keep everything else as normal, 2 o'clock the rest of the week. Friday is a getaway day for me. So I don't know how long we'll go on Friday, but yes, I will be here Friday. We will do our open forum format as we usually do. All of you can come up and hang with us. By the way, Mr. Napier has a birthday this week. I mentioned that because Friday is actually my 40th birthday as well. So we're going to be going out of town. I'm looking forward to that. Actually, we're going to be going to Hell's Kitchen. I have always wanted to go to Hell's Kitchen. That is going to become a reality. So looking forward to that. So if you want to wish Grant a happy birthday, he will be back on Wednesday, and then Friday I don't know what we'll do. We'll have some fun. I'm sure Haunted Horse will try to throw like a surprise birthday party or something for me, but make it a great, I'm not going to leave before your scheduled hit. You can still come on, buddy. Make it a great rest of the day. We're going to be back again at 8 o'clock tonight, breaking down the NBA Finals. I want your calls. Make sure you get in here. You can also call on the phone line, 916-399-3748. Love to get your takes on the games. Thanks for bearing with us with the early start today. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. as normal. It will be a Jerry Reynolds Tuesday. For those that are new to the King's Court, Jerry Reynolds joins us every Tuesday here. Make sure you get your questions into me. We will get as many of them up to Jerry as we can. If you want to maybe call and ask Jerry a question, I am open to that. But there is one rule: get in and get out, because I want to be respectful of Jerry's time. So make it a great rest of the day. Tadora, hit it.
Holy moly, Jimbaboli.
Go Kings, light the damn beam. Court is dismissed for today, but I will be back tonight with the NBA postgame, or NBA Finals postgame at 8 p.m. or right after the conclusion of the Boston Celtics and Dallas Mavericks Game 5. Make it a good one, everybody. So long.